Hey everybody, this is Ty Terrell with iFast University, and I want to talk about when to use the rowing pattern. Now, if you listen to a lot of stuff that we do at iFast, we're very focused or conscious of this bilateral extension pattern right here. And so we're conscious of it because it can cause roadblocks in the movement. So it can limit rotation, it can limit your ability to get your hips underneath you in a good position so that you can load your hips and move from leg to leg and side to side and so forth in performance. It limits your movement options. When you're here, you just don't have as many options or as much places to go that you would if you were in a more neutral ribs down position. So keeping this in mind, the push versus the pull, the traditional model has been, well, you got to have like a 1-to-1 balance or something like that. Or I've even heard people say if there's an imbalance, maybe you go 2-to-1. Like if you're really tight in your pecs, well, then you need to go twice as many rows. And I'm not saying that that's what I've done or what I do. I'm just saying these are things that I've heard. So I want to talk about the push and the pull, or the row and the press and the push from a different perspective. Now I want to talk about when they are actually prepared or qualified to start rowing. So if I row, so when you row bilaterally, both arms, it is an extension pattern. So if you squeeze your shoulder blades back, your rib cage goes forward, your chest goes forward, your spine extends. Now if you don't have the abs to oppose that and control that extension, I would say that you are not qualified to do bilateral rowing. So maybe you go unilateral, or meanwhile you're doing anti-extension or sagittal plane ab work to keep this from happening. You may even start at a really low weight, and so you work on keeping this position right here, these ribs down while you pull, and that's going to let the scaps move on a rib cage versus the rib cage moving away from the scaps when you pull back. So when you go into extension, the scaps rotate back, but your rib cage goes away from them like this. If you can keep your ribs down, the scaps can actually move on the rib cage, and that's a more stable position for the shoulders and the scaps to be in. So while you're working on sagittal plane abs and anti-extension abs and the ability to control that rib cage in bilateral rowing, you can do a lot of pressing. So pressing, pushing, and a long reach actually brings the rib cage back and gives the abs leverage and helps you avoid or train or control that sagittal plane and then kind of get out of that extended posture. So in the beginning of programs, if you have an athlete, to wrap this up, if you have an athlete that is extended bilaterally and has a hard time controlling that extension, they can't get their spine to neutral, then I would focus a lot on pressing up front or pushing, getting long arms, and more so than I would on pulling. In a perfect world, I would do a lot of ab work in the sagittal plane until my athlete or my client had the ability to resist extension when bilateral rowing. So just my 2 cents on rowing. It's one of your base movements. It's one of your foundational movements, the horizontal pull, and so we should absolutely be doing it. But I would just keep in mind that not every person is qualified to do it, and just some thoughts on what you should be working on to get people qualified to do it. This is Ty Terrell with iFast University, and we'll see you guys next time.